Have you ever found yourself staring at the ceiling late at night, wondering if God has forgotten about you? You pray, you wait, you try to stay hopeful, but somewhere deep inside, a quiet question keeps rising. Lord, how much longer? Maybe you've watched other people receive the very breakthrough you've been praying for. Maybe you've celebrated their blessings with a smile, only to cry in private because you're still waiting for yours. Or maybe you've done everything you know to do. You've remained faithful. You've tried to obey God. You've resisted the temptation to give up. Yet somehow it still feels like heaven has gone silent. If that's where you are today, I want you to know something before we go any further. You're not weak because waiting feels hard. You're human. Waiting has a way of exposing the places in our hearts we didn't even know needed healing. It reveals our fears, our insecurities, our impatience, and sometimes even our doubts about whether God is truly working behind the scenes. But what if I told you that while you're waiting on God, there's another kind of work taking place? Not just the work God is doing for you, but the work He's doing in you. Maybe this message is exactly what you needed today. And maybe this isn't a coincidence that you're watching, because sometimes the greatest delay isn't caused by God's timing. Sometimes it's caused by the habits we unknowingly carry into the waiting season. There are things that feel harmless on the surface, but quietly steal our peace, weaken our faith, and make the waiting heavier than it was ever meant to be. Today, I want to share 5 things you must stop doing while waiting on God. Not because doing these things will force God to move faster, but because letting them go will help you experience His peace while you wait. The Bible reminds us in Isaiah 40 verse 31, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." It doesn't say those who wait on the Lord will become exhausted. It says they will renew their strength. That means waiting with God is different from simply waiting. One drains you, the other transforms you. So if you've ever experienced disappointment, unanswered prayers, or seasons where nothing seemed to be changing, I want you to stay with me, because by the end of this conversation, I pray you'll walk away with a different perspective on your waiting season. Let's begin with the first thing you must stop doing. Stop trying to control what only God can carry. This one is difficult because it often disguises itself as responsibility. We tell ourselves we're just being prepared. We're just thinking ahead. We're just trying to make things happen. But if we're honest, sometimes what we call preparation is actually fear wearing a productive mask. Have you ever replayed the same situation over and over in your mind? Thinking, if I say this, if I do that, if I plan a little more, if I worry enough, then maybe things will finally work out. The human mind naturally wants certainty. Psychologists have long observed that uncertainty creates discomfort, and our brains instinctively search for ways to regain a sense of control, even if the control is only an illusion. That's why waiting feels so uncomfortable. Not because God isn't working, but because we can't see what He's doing. And what we cannot control often becomes what we obsess over. But here's the gentle truth. Control is a burden you were never created to carry. Every time you try to force an outcome God hasn't released yet, you exchange peace for pressure. You begin measuring your progress every day, checking constantly, analyzing everything, looking for signs, wondering if every delay means you've done something wrong. Eventually, your faith becomes exhausted because it was never meant to function through constant striving. Listen to what the Bible says in Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." Notice that God never asks us to understand everything. He asks us to trust Him. Those are two very different things. Understanding depends on having answers. Trust depends on knowing the one who holds the answers. And sometimes God intentionally withholds the full picture because if He showed us every detail, we might try to take control again. What if the reason God hasn't explained everything isn't because He's ignoring you, but because He's inviting you to depend on Him one day at a time? Think about a child holding their parent's hand while crossing a busy street. The child doesn't need to understand traffic patterns. The child simply needs to trust the hand that's guiding them safely across. That's what faith looks like. Not having every answer, but refusing to let go of God's hand. If you've been carrying the weight of trying to make everything happen, I want you to hear this. God isn't asking you to figure everything out. He's asking you to stay close to him. There's a difference. The first leads to anxiety. The second leads to peace. Take a deep breath. You don't have to solve tomorrow today. God is already there. Now let's talk about the second thing you must stop doing while waiting on God. Stop comparing your timeline with someone else's. Comparison is one of the quickest ways to lose joy during a waiting season. It begins so quietly. You open social media. Someone gets engaged. Someone buys a house. Someone announces a new job. Someone shares a testimony of answered prayer. And suddenly, instead of celebrating with them, you're questioning yourself. Why not me? What did I do wrong? Is God blessing everyone except me? If you've ever had thoughts like these, you're not alone. Comparison doesn't necessarily mean you're jealous. Sometimes it simply means you're hurting. You're grieving the life you thought would have happened by now. And that's a very human feeling. But it's also a dangerous place to stay. Because comparison makes you believe that God's faithfulness is measured by someone else's timeline. It whispers that because another person's prayer was answered first, yours has somehow been forgotten. But God doesn't work from a schedule designed by culture. He works from a purpose designed by eternity. One of the hardest lessons we learn is that God's timing is rarely our timing. Yet looking back, many of us can see moments when a delay protected us from something we couldn't yet understand. Maybe the relationship that didn't work out spared you years of heartbreak. Maybe the opportunity that slipped away prepared you for something far greater. Maybe the closed door wasn't rejection. Maybe it was redirection. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11, He has made everything beautiful in its time. Not our time, His time. There's wisdom in those three simple words. In its time. A seed planted today doesn't become a tree tomorrow. No matter how desperately you want fruit, pulling on the branches won't make it grow faster. Growth happens beneath the surface long before anyone sees it. And maybe that's exactly what God is doing in your life. Working in places no one else can see. Strengthening your character. Deepening your faith. Preparing your heart to sustain the blessing you've been praying for. Because receiving something before you're ready can become a burden instead of a blessing. So the next time you're tempted to compare your life with someone else's, gently remind yourself, their story isn't your assignment. Their timing isn't your promise. Their path isn't your purpose. God knows exactly where you are. He hasn't misplaced your name. He hasn't forgotten your prayer. And He has not abandoned the work He started in you. So while others may be running, don't despise your walking season. While others are celebrating, don't assume your celebration will never come. Your story is still being written. And sometimes the chapters that feel the slowest become the ones that reveal God's faithfulness most beautifully. The third thing you must stop doing while waiting on God is this. Stop letting fear write the story before God does. Fear has a way of convincing us that the worst outcome is the most likely one. It whispers things that sound believable. What if nothing ever changes? What if this prayer is never answered? What if you've missed your chance? Little by little, those thoughts become the soundtrack of our waiting season. And without realizing it, we begin living as though our fears are facts. But fear is a terrible fortune teller. It promises certainty, yet it knows nothing about the future God has already written. I wonder how many blessings have been overshadowed because we spent more time imagining what could go wrong than remembering who God is. If you're honest, have you ever caught yourself preparing for disappointment before you've even given God room to surprise you? I know I have. Our minds naturally try to protect us from getting hurt again. After enough disappointments, we build emotional walls. We tell ourselves not to expect too much because maybe then it won't hurt as badly if things don't work out. Feels safe. But over time, that survival mindset can quietly become a prison. You stop dreaming. You stop expecting. You still pray, but part of you has already accepted defeat. And that's not how God wants His children to live. Listen to the words of Jesus in Matthew 6 verse 34. Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Jesus wasn't pretending that life would be easy. He was teaching us where our focus belongs. Not in tomorrow's uncertainty, not in yesterday's disappointments, but in today's grace. Because every single day comes with fresh mercy, fresh strength, fresh opportunities to trust God again. What if the breakthrough you've been praying for is closer than your fear wants you to believe? What if heaven is working behind the scenes while anxiety keeps telling you that nothing is happening? Sometimes we mistake silence for absence. But silence doesn't mean God has stepped away. Think about a seed buried beneath the soil. From the outside, it looks like absolutely nothing is happening. Days pass, weeks pass, maybe even months. If you judged only by what you could see, you'd conclude the seed was dead. But beneath the surface, roots are growing. Life is forming. The invisible work always comes before the visible breakthrough. Could that be true for you right now? Could it be that God is doing his deepest work where your eyes cannot yet reach? I want you to hear this. Don't let fear narrate a story that God hasn't finished writing. Leave room for miracles. Leave room for unexpected doors. Leave room for prayers that are answered differently, and even better than you imagined. Because God has never been limited by what looked impossible to people. Now, before we move to the fourth thing, I want to share something personal. I remember a season in my own life when I was so excited about something I believed God was leading me toward. It wasn't a huge achievement by the world's standards, but to me it meant everything. I had spent weeks praying about it, planning, dreaming. The more I thought about it, the more real it felt. I was convinced the door was about to open, so I started talking about it. I told people what I hoped would happen. I shared my plans before they had taken shape. Every conversation made me even more attached to the outcome. Then, the opportunity fell through. Nothing happened the way I expected. I remember feeling embarrassed, not just because things didn't work out, but because I had already invited other people into a story that God hadn't finished writing. For a while, I wondered if I had misunderstood him. But looking back now, I realized God wasn't punishing me. He was teaching me something precious. Some dreams grow best in quiet places. Not everything God plants in your heart needs to be announced immediately. Some seasons require less explaining and more trusting, less talking and more praying. That experience changed me. Now, whenever I sense God beginning something new in my life, I'm much slower to announce it. Not because I'm afraid, but because I've learned that peace often grows in private before purpose is revealed in public. Maybe you've experienced something similar. Maybe you've shared your hopes too early and later had to explain why things didn't happen. Maybe people questioned your faith. Maybe they laughed. Maybe they reminded you of your past failures. If that's your story, don't let it convince you to stop believing God. Just let it teach you the beauty of waiting with wisdom. The fourth thing you must stop doing while waiting on God is stop believing that your waiting season is a wasted season. This is one of the enemy's favorite lies. He wants you to think that because nothing visible is changing, nothing valuable is happening. But that's rarely how God works. Some of his greatest work happens where no one is applauding. Character is formed in hidden places. Patience grows in hidden places. Wisdom is developed in hidden places. And intimacy with God often deepens in hidden places. Waiting is not God's way of putting your life on pause. It's his way of preparing you for what comes next. Think about some of the people God used throughout Scripture. Many of them experienced long seasons of preparation before stepping into their calling. Those years weren't empty. They were necessary. Because God cares just as much about the person you're becoming as the blessing you're praying to receive. There's a quote I once heard that has stayed with me. God is more interested in your transformation than your timetable. Every time I think about those words, they remind me that heaven measures progress differently than we do. We often ask, how much longer? God often asks, how much deeper? Deeper trust, deeper humility, deeper dependence. Because blessings without maturity can become burdens. But when God prepares your heart first, you'll be able to carry what he places in your hands. The Bible says in Romans 8 verse 28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Notice that it says all things, not just the joyful seasons, not just the answered prayers, even the delays, even the disappointments, even the moments that made no sense at the time. God is able to weave every one of them into something meaningful. So if today you feel like your life has been standing still, I want you to remember this. Trees don't stop growing in winter. They simply grow differently. Some of the strongest roots develop during seasons when nothing beautiful can be seen above the ground. Your waiting season may look quiet. It may even feel lonely. But that doesn't mean it's empty. God is still working. He's still shaping you. He's still preparing what He's prepared for you. So don't measure God's faithfulness by visible progress alone. Sometimes the greatest evidence that He's working is the quiet strength He's building inside you. And if you've stayed with me this far, I truly believe this message is reaching your heart for a reason. Because there's one final habit we need to talk about. It's perhaps the most difficult one to let go of. Yet once you do, waiting no longer feels like punishment. It begins to feel like peace. The fifth and final thing you must stop doing while waiting on God is this. Stop believing that God's silence means God's absence. If you've been waiting for a long time, this might be the hardest one of all. Because there comes a point in every waiting season when the prayers begin to sound familiar. You ask, you hope, you trust. Then another day passes, another week, another month, sometimes even another year. And if we're not careful, we begin to mistake God's silence for His indifference. We quietly wonder, God, are you even listening? Maybe you've prayed the same prayer so many times that you've started praying it with less expectation than before. Not because you don't believe God is able, but because you're tired. If that's where you are today, I want you to know something. God is not offended by your weariness. He understands it. He knows what it's like to carry sorrow. He knows what it's like to wait. He knows every tear you've cried that no one else has seen. Not one of them has escaped His attention. Sometimes we expect God to speak with thunder, but more often He speaks through quiet reassurance, through unexpected peace, through a verse that seems to find you at just the right moment, through a conversation you didn't know you needed, through strength that somehow carries you when you were certain you had nothing left. What if the greatest evidence of God's presence isn't that everything around you has changed, but that somehow, despite everything you faced, you're still standing? Think about that for a moment. The fact that your heart still longs for Him, the fact that you're still praying, the fact that you're still searching for hope. Those are signs that His grace has never left you. The Bible gives us this beautiful promise in Psalm 27 verse 14. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. I love that verse because it doesn't pretend waiting is easy. It acknowledges that waiting requires courage. It takes strength to trust when you don't have answers. It takes faith to keep believing when nothing around you seems to be changing. But notice where that strength comes from. Not from pretending you're okay. Not from forcing yourself to be positive every second. It comes from waiting with the Lord. There is a difference. Waiting alone feels heavy. Waiting with God becomes holy. Some of us have spent so much energy asking God to remove the waiting that we've forgotten to invite Him into it. But He has been there all along, walking beside you, holding you together on the days you thought you would fall apart, whispering hope into places where fear tried to make its home. Maybe the miracle isn't only what you're waiting to receive. Maybe part of the miracle is who you're becoming while you wait. Person who trusts more deeply. Person who loves more genuinely. A person who no longer depends on circumstances to experience peace. That kind of transformation is priceless. Years from now, when you look back on this chapter of your life, I don't believe you'll only remember what you were waiting for. I think you'll remember how faithfully God carried you through it. You'll remember the prayers that strengthened you, the quiet mornings when His presence brought comfort, the unexpected doors He opened, the ones He lovingly kept closed. And you'll realize something you couldn't fully see in the middle of the journey. God wasn't simply preparing a blessing. He was preparing you. Maybe you've been asking, Lord, when will this season end? But perhaps a better question is, Lord, what are you teaching me while I'm here? Because when we begin asking that question, something beautiful happens. Waiting stops feeling like wasted time. It starts becoming sacred ground, a place where faith grows roots, a place where character is refined, a place where hope learns how to breathe again. If you're listening today and your heart feels tired, I want to remind you of something. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. Your prayers have not disappeared into silence. The God who called you is still writing your story. Even when you cannot see His hand, you can trust His heart. Even when the path feels uncertain, His character remains the same. He has never failed, and He will not begin with you. So as you leave this conversation today, I hope you'll carry these 5 reminders with you. Stop trying to control what only God can carry. Stop comparing your journey to someone else's. Stop allowing fear to write the ending before God does. Stop believing your waiting season is wasted. And above all, stop believing that God's silence means He has left you. Because He hasn't. He's closer than you think. He's working in ways you cannot yet imagine. And at just the right time, He will make His purpose clear. Until then, keep praying, keep trusting, keep showing up, keep believing. Even if your faith feels as small as a whisper today, place that whisper into God's hands. He has always known what to do with fragile faith. Before we close, I want to leave you with one final thought. Your waiting season is not the end of your story. It's the chapter where God quietly builds the foundation for everything that's still to come. One day, what feels confusing now will become your testimony. One day, the tears you're crying today will remind you of how faithful God has always been. One day, you'll encourage someone else by saying, "I know what it's like to wait, but I also know what it's like to discover that God never left." So don't lose heart. The author of your story is still writing, and He never abandons a story He begins. May the peace of Christ guard your heart. May His wisdom guide your decisions. May His presence comfort you in every moment of uncertainty. And may your waiting become a place where your faith grows stronger than your fears. Thank you for spending these moments with me. If this message spoke to your heart, and you'd like more Christ-centered encouragement to strengthen your faith and remind you that you're never walking alone, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to Selah Chronicles and join this growing family. Until next time, be still, take heart, and remember, God is never late. He's always right on time.